Finally, the monsoon trough is beginning to move over northern Australia, and that's bringing with it heavy rain and dropping those temperatures down. Darwin's starting to see more frequent showers and thunderstorms throughout the day. And even the Kimberley region, which has been bone dry, is now receiving some good rainfall. This is Gibb River Road in the Kimberley region, looking a bit wet there and dropping those temperatures as a result. Now, the monsoon trough that's lingering over northern Australia is going to be spawning a series of tropical lows. One is already being watched by the Bureau of Meteorology and could even turn into Tropical Cyclone Riley tomorrow or maybe even Friday. Keep your eyes on the monsoon trough over the north. You can see that low-pressure system potentially turning into a cyclone on Thursday. That'll be TC Riley. Potential for another low in the Gulf of Carpentaria, bringing heavy rain there. We also have a few fronts over the southeast, and if they link up with the moisture from those lows, well, it could bring some nice rain, maybe around 1 to 5 millimeters over parts of the Murray-Darling Basin sometime early next week. As we look forward ahead, depending on the movement of those tropical lows, we could see some very, very heavy rain across parts of inland Queensland, the Northern Territory, and even the top end there as well. Looking at the forecast rainfall, for today, we have showers and storms in the ranges of New South Wales. The worst of those storms will be in the central ranges. Isolated totals there, 15 to 25 millimeters. That'll bring the risk of flash flooding with it, but many areas have about 1 to 10 millimeters, as you can see, fairly widespread there. Meanwhile, as we look forward ahead, we can see that Thursday also has some showers and storms over the northeast. Very heavy rain with the movement of some tropical lows, maybe even Riley forming, bringing the risk of some heavy rain to parts of the Kimberley and the Pilbara region, depending how it moves. Another tropical low in the Gulf of Carpentaria, or near the Queensland's Cape York Peninsula. Could bring very heavy rain around the Gulf fringe, as you can see there, but throughout this time, notice the rest of Australia mostly dry. We're actually just experiencing more heat for the most part. Next weekend, we'll see that low move closer to the Pilbara region, bringing showers and storms there, and then maybe a front moving through, bringing the risk of 1 to 5 millimeters over parts of the Eyre Peninsula pastorals, and maybe even a spot of rain over parts of the Murray-Darling Basin as well. Over the north, we're going to continue to see very heavy rain next week. If that low makes landfall somewhere on the Gulf coastline, it could bring flooding rain to parts of the northern Queensland, parts of around the Barkly area and the Gulf region of the Northern Territory, and that'll continue into Tuesday. The rain over the next 8 days looks pretty good for northern Australia, though great wet season for Queensland does look set to continue. You can see widespread totals predicted here in excess of 150 millimeters. Meanwhile, on the Gulf Coast, if a low makes landfall there, you can see widespread totals over 100 millimeters. And around the Kimberley region, the Pilbara region, 50 to 100 millimeters possible with Riley if it does form, and also around that top end as well. Consistent monsoon totals over 100 millimeters. Meanwhile, the ranges of New South Wales getting showers and thunderstorms potentially, totals around isolated 25, and over the next week, averaging about 5 to 10 millimeters.
The Australia Day long weekend is fast approaching and everybody wants to know what is happening in terms of the weather. Well, extreme weather will be continuing for parts of the country. If you're in Sydney and western suburbs of Sydney, you're in for a scorcher. We'll be in the middle of a heat wave once again, and we do have a bit of model uncertainty in regards to what could be Tropical Cyclone Riley developing off the Kimberley coast of WA. Also, a low pressure system will begin to impact far northern Queensland and the top end as well. In terms of the heat, well, the heat is on if you're in inland parts of the country, particularly the eastern inland, where we'll be seeing temperatures soaring. A good example of that for Australia Day on Saturday is, of course, Canberra. You're warming to 39 degrees. We'll have the risk of showers in the far south, hopefully providing some reprieve for firefighting efforts throughout Victoria and Tasmania. Searing heat continuing for the east coast, including Brisbane, the Gold Coast and Sydney, all well above average. And on Sunday, Perth will see sunny skies for you as well. It's looking like a mild Australia Day long weekend in the south, and it's all happening in the north.
We have quite a significant threat of fires again throughout this week. Before we get to that, let's take a look at how things are going in Tasmania. Now, this has actually been shared by the Tasmanian Fire Service, and what they're driving home here is this was yesterday morning. Notice that layer of fog and smoke. This is trapped under an inversion layer, which breaks apart throughout the day and allows that smoke to lift, but it makes for very difficult conditions to fight fires in. Now, thankfully, today we're not seeing that thick of an inversion layer. It does look like we've seen that southerly change come through overnight, so hopefully we won't see as much smoke around the region. So thankfully, we'll see the fire danger easing back today in Tasmania with some cooler temperatures and also some lighter winds. However, for Western Australia, we have very gusty winds, very hot winds. Extreme fire dangers are actually hitting parts of the Wheat Belt, the Great Southern region, and parts of the Euclid District. In South Australia, we have severe fire danger in the west coast, parts of the southeast, and we have very high fire danger in parts of Victoria with temperatures in the mid-40s for some areas developing on Thursday. Look at this. Look at that heat coming through. That's 45-degree temperatures in South Australia. Thursday and Friday is dangerous fire weather in South Australia, Victoria, and Tasmania as temperatures go to 40 degrees, potentially even in Tasmania on Friday. We have extreme fire danger already forecast for the Mount Lofty ranges in the lower southeast of South Australia. Very high fire danger in much of central and western Victoria. And then when we see a westerly change come through overnight, that heat will then line up for Victoria, New South Wales, and even Tasmania. Tasmania on Friday looks like a very dangerous fire day. We already have a number of fires which are quite large across the state, and with these hot, dry, and gusty northerly winds followed by an afternoon westerly change, this is a very unideal setup for firefighters in that region, and particularly because we've seen a lot of fire weather across parts of South Australia and Victoria already. Resources could be stretched thin in this sort of a scenario. But even Victoria, as you can see, widespread severe fire danger and likely total fire bans in effect.
This is a severe weather alert.
An update on the status of tropical cyclone watches for the monsoon low off the Kimberley coastline. We've started to see an area of organized convection off the Kimberley coast. And you can see on the satellite imagery, the infrared satellite imagery, this feature over here. That is a low-pressure system which is threatening to become a tropical cyclone. Right now, there is a tropical cyclone watch between Curry Bay and Beagle Bay in the Kimberley region, not including Derby. The system is situated well offshore at the moment, but is causing heavy rain for parts of the eastern Kimberley region, where over 100 millimeters has fallen overnight. Now, over the next 24 hours, this system is threatened to become a tropical cyclone. When it forms, it'll be called Tropical Cyclone Riley as it moves southwest and near parallel to the Kimberley coast, bringing the threat of gale force winds as well. Now, thankfully, it looks to move parallel to the coast at the moment and only looks to make landfall maybe sometime late next weekend. For assistance in storm damage, you can contact the State Emergency Services on 132-500.